Alright, let's do this. Hey guys, Mike with KC Tarantulas here. The weather is crappy. I'm tired, but I wanted to get up early and get this video started for you guys so I can get in before the last of the year. This is part 2 of my tarantula collection tour, and I don't know what else to say. Thanks for watching the last one, and let's go ahead and just jump right in. Alright, this webby enclosure, I won't keep the lid off of it too long to not freak out this tarantula that much. But this is the enclosure for my Neoholy Theli NCI, the gold color form named Bloom. I never see this tarantula. This tarantula is always in the burrow. So, they're pretty cool. I heard that this species can be set up communally with some success, but mine is a pet hole, for sure. I'm going to put this lid back on top here so that I don't freak it out any more than we have to. But yeah, I wish I had more to say about this tarantula, but I don't really ever see it. It's very secretive. Probably my most secretive tarantula. Food disappears, so that's nice, and every once in a while there's a molt that's been pushed out of one of the burrow entrances. But other than that, yeah, that's all I got for that one. Okay, the feet that you see right there, that's the feet of my Ceratogyrus sanderi, named Muhongo. I have Muhongo in the clear acrylic enclosure that was custom made for me. You guys can see that in a previous video. I don't think, oh, there the feet are disappearing. Bye, Muhongo. This one I have set up with a fairly deep substrate, some cork bark, and a water dish, which I overflow every once in a while. Yeah, I don't get to see this species very much, just legs like you saw there. But other than that, seems to be growing. The legs keep getting bigger. So everything seems to be going all right with it. I wish I could see it because I'd like to see if it's got the, you know, the classic horn yet. I think this one, I think this species gets more like a nub than a horn, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it's not like the Darlingi or the Marshalli. I think they definitely have a more pronounced horn. But yeah, cool species nonetheless. Hopefully I'll see it more when it gets older. Let's move on. Alright, here's another one of my most secretive tarantulas. This is the enclosure for my Pelinobus midicus, the king baboon. This one's name is Nagai. Nagai is got a burrow somewhere under the cork bark, but constantly blocks it off. Has molted in my care, so it seems to be going well, but even when it's not in pre-molt or whatever, it still just keeps its burrow closed off. I don't know what evolutionary benefit that is, because I almost always have to brush away the entrance to the burrow to drop some, like a superworm in there, which Nagai eats happily. So I don't know how this particular tarantula would have eaten in the wild if that's its hunting technique, because it just doesn't seem very very effective. But yeah, sorry there's not much to see more on this one, but let's move on. Alright, here we have my Aphanopelma simani, the blue color form. This is Java. Java is in pretty heavy pre-molt at the moment. But yeah, those of you who have followed my channel know that this is actually one of the first batch of tarantulas that I had gotten. and has been so far the slowest growing by far out of all of them. I had some that were even smaller than this one was when I got them, and they have surpassed greatly in size. Little Java here. So, little Java's just a a little bit of a late bloomer. So, but due for a molt, and this one is one so far that anytime it has been in pre-molt, it usually stays in pre-molt for a matter of like 6+ months, which is surprising for juveniles and slings. Normally, when they're small, they molt quite often, but not Java here. Java just plays by her own internal clock, I guess. But yes, Java is really nice tarantula. Not very skittish, pretty chill, voracious eater. Just a little bit on the lazy side when it comes to getting bigger. But let's go ahead and move on to the next. Alright, here we have my Davis Pentaloris, named Khan. Yeah, Khan has been a favorite for a while. I did that collaboration with Tom Moran, explaining why I think this species is definitely one that is underrated in the hobby. But you know what? I've seen a lot of people talking more and more about them lately, so it seems like that might be changing. I probably didn't have any effect on that, but I'm glad to see it changing nonetheless. Yeah, Davis Pentaloris, they are heavy webbers, just like your GBBs. In fact, I would say that they're very, very similar in all aspects to GBBs. They are gorgeous looking, very, very different looking from a lot of other tarantulas. They are voracious eaters, and they're really simple, straightforward to take care of. Although I would say Khan can be a little flighty, which is why I'm not taking the lid completely off. Because Khan definitely does like to run laps. But yeah, other than that, like I said, voracious eaters, always out, always on display. Dry sub, water dish, you're good to go. Highly recommend this species. Let's move on. Okay, here we have my Nandu tripepi, named Midas. And earlier when I was talking about my first batch of tarantulas that I had gotten, and many of them surpassing Java in size, this is my prime example. Midas was incredibly tiny. It was my smallest sling probably that I've ever had to date. It was just incredibly, incredibly small. But has grown up to be a very, very beautiful, big female, and is only going to get bigger. This particular species gets very, very large. She's actually going to be getting an upgrade in an enclosure. I'm going to be moving her to one of the big exoteras that I use here shortly, probably within the next couple weeks. I thought about waiting another molt, but I don't think I should. I think she wants a little bit of leg room. But yeah, I keep her on dry sub with a water dish. She burrowed as a sling, but has stopped about 2 molts ago, and now just kind of is always out on top of the cork bark or on top of the substrate. Good eater, not very skittish. Doesn't really react a whole lot to much. Yeah, but so far it's been an immense pleasure to watch this tarantula go from such a tiny sling to such a big juvenile. And I think in a matter of 2.5 years now, something like that. Yeah, Nandu species. Gotta love how fast they grow. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next tarantula. Alright, this is, let me see if I can get some better lighting. Not much. This is Gladys, my Chromatopelma cyanopudescens, also known as the green bottle blue, or GBB. Yeah, I can't really say much more than what everybody else says about this tarantula. They're great. They're voracious eaters, heavy webbers, and they look gorgeous. As far as setup goes, they like dry substrate with maybe some fake plants and cork bark in there to anchor their web to, and they like it dry and with a water dish. But yeah, that is Gladys. Let's move on. Alright, this is my Aphanopelma hinsi named Walnut. Growing pretty well, pretty slowly, but that's to be expected with the genus. Yeah, this one is out and about somewhat regularly. It does have a burrow on the other side of the enclosure, so it's either kind of tucked in there or it comes out every once in a while. It likes to dig in that corner that it's in, but doesn't ever really do anything, just kind of digs in that corner. That might also be a preference because that's where the moisture is. I don't overflow the water dish in this one, but you know, sometimes that corner does get some extra moisture, so that might be it, even though this species is typically fine on dry sub. But yeah, pretty cool little tarantula. Probably due for a molt sometime here soon. But let's go on to the next. Alright, up now you just see the butt of Wooly. Wooly is my Brachypelma albopilosum. Probably getting due for a molt as well. Also, this is one that I am in a constant battle with to keep that water dish clean of substrate. I assume by this time tomorrow it will be filled once again. But, you know, as annoying as it is, you kind of have to fight them each day because you got to make sure that they definitely keep hydrated. But yeah, not much else to say about this one. It's a great beginner species. Really enjoy it. Sorry for the car alarm going off in the background. Welcome to living downtown. But yeah, that was Wooly, and we'll move on. Is Silva. Silva is my Nandu chromatus, mature male. He's still around, still doing good. As you can see, he's still eating. He's got a super worm in his mouth. I gave him that so that he would be a little bit more chill so I could get some footage of him. Because what I've noticed with him is if he has food, he will stay out. If he doesn't have food and I try to do anything with the enclosure, he will go right down into his burrow. But yeah, fast growing species, really easy to take care of, pretty standard, dry sub, water dish. It's another one that will probably fill the water dish up with substrate, happens very often. But yeah, beautiful species. I really like their colors. They're great eaters. They can be a little bit flighty, but not too bad. Like I said, just give them some food, and they'll tend to sit still a little bit better. But yeah, I've really enjoyed having Silva, and probably will get another Nandu chromatus in the future. But yeah, that was Silva. We will move on. This little guy is my Grammostola pulchra, or pulchra, named Quill. And as you can see, Quill is in pretty heavy pre-molt. Very dull colors. Normally when this one molts, you will see the very dark black. And each molt, Quill has been getting darker and darker. Really starting to get pretty, but as you can see, when they get close to a molt, their colors definitely get pretty dull. This one has been in pre-molt for quite some time. I will go, like 2 months and waiting, nothing, and so like, okay. I will go to fill a water dish, and Quill will attack the water. So I'm like, wow, is this one little one still hungry? And so I'll put in a small mealworm or something, and Quill will eat, and it's incredibly annoying. So this one seems to be perpetually looking as if it's in pre-molt, but I really think that it will be soon, hopefully. Great beginner species. Quill has always been very chill, also extremely inquisitive. Not this time, I think, because of the pre-molt, but normally when I open the enclosure, start doing anything, Quill immediately thinks that it's time to walk right out the enclosure and go on an adventure, which is adorable. I think that is cute. There's a couple tarantula species that I have that are kind of that way. They are slowly trying to make their way out of the enclosure each time you open it. So, but yeah, a little bit more difficult to find, but not impossible for sure. Usually, most shows you might find one or two. Yeah, pick one up if you can, because I really think they're a great species. But let's move to the next tarantula. This is Rouge, my Grammostola rosea, red color form. As you can tell, a bit of a drama queen. Yeah, so another common species in the hobby that is usually kind of said to be a good beginner species. There is some debate about that. Some people have had, like myself, have had a very calm rosea, very easy to take care of, but then others have had some that are a bit more defensive and has a little bit more attitude, but Rouge is definitely not the case. Yeah, I mean, I keep her dry sub, as you can see, with the water dish. She webbed up like crazy and now has put more substrate over her web, so you can't see it, but she did have this thing completely webbed out. And I think what that might be is because I did try to use some of a mix here of the excavator substrate with some regular cocoa fiber. And so basically my thought process was it was something that would hold its form really well, but also that she would still be able to burrow a bit. And I think the excavator is a little bit too hard, even still when mixed 50-50. So she's dug out a little bit, but not an extreme amount. But she doesn't seem perturbed. She doesn't get defensive like she doesn't have a place to retreat to. So yeah, I mean, it's working out so well for her, but I probably won't do it again with any other tarantula, just because I just don't think it allows them to burrow quite as much as they like. Luckily, she's not extremely, an extreme burrower, so it doesn't make that much of a difference, but for a tarantula that is an extreme burrower, they probably wouldn't be able to do so. Is she going to try to walk out on us? She's just trying to say hi. Yeah, she's just coming to say hi. Alright, well anyways, goodbye Rouge. Alright, we'll move on. Alright, this is the enclosure for my Ceratogyrus darlingi. This is a female. Her name is Oni. Can just make out her legs down there. I was kind of hoping that we might get her to come out here and show off her horn. We will try. I'm actually going to try to drop in a super worm, see if we can't convince her to come out, because she is very, very, very pretty. She molted probably about 2 weeks ago. She's had one meal since, but she'll probably be willing to take another one. No, don't go down there. See if she'll come up and get that worm. But yeah, so the common name for the species is the rear-horned baboon. As I was talking about a horn, they do have a growth on top of their carapace. Oh, looks like she might be interested in it. She'll probably just grab it and take it down. Hey, there we got the... Is she gonna take it? But yeah, they have a growth on top of their head. We're still quite unsure as to what its function is. Yeah, she just took it right back down there. I do believe there is a theory that it might be used to help with suction, so like from their mouth parts. But I don't know if anybody has any kind of proof about that yet. But yeah, she has the rear-horned baboon. She was the rear-horned baboon, so her horn kind of faces up and then back. I really wish she would come out and show it off. But since she won't, I'm going to go ahead and post a picture here. Alright, hopefully I don't forget to do that. But yeah, really easy to take care of. Baboon species kind of, everybody says that they have an attitude and they're defensive. It kind of ranges though. Like she has thrown up a threat posture at me, but she's also been super easy to rehouse anytime I've actually tried to rehouse her. So it's kind of a mixed bag. The only time she's ever thrown up threat postures is when I'm, filling her water dish and it splashes about. Sorry for the background noise. The kittens are playing. But yeah, I think if you're going to venture into old worlds for the first time, this might be my recommendation as the species to try. As long as you have them set up correctly where they have a burrow to kind of retreat back to if they feel threatened, they're usually a lot less defensive, and they're just a really cool species to have. Alright, next up we have Aragog. This is a juvenile Aviculara aviculara. One of my viewers that is local was unfortunately unable to take care of this one any longer, and so I volunteered to adopt it. It has molted recently, so it has some pretty dark blue color on it and some pretty bright pink toes. Gonna go for a walk or get some water? Well, I think we're gonna have a drink. No? Alright, well yeah, so I'll kind of go over this information while looking at this tarantula, even though I have a second one of these species that I will be showing a little bit later. Well, kind of. You'll see. So yeah, Avix, really, really good. Sorry, my cat decided it was time to play with its toy. I'll try to talk over it. Really, really good beginner species, in my opinion. However, that does come with a little bit of a disclaimer. They are a really good species if you set them up correctly the first time. So as many of you know, as I've said in previous videos, with Avix and Carabinas and a lot of arboreals, it's important to get cross ventilation. And that's really about it. You don't need to mist them, you don't need to add extra humidity. Just provide a water dish and then make sure that they have good cross ventilation so air can flow from one side to another. As long as you accomplish those things, you usually are not going to have any problems. But yeah, so that is Aragog. Really a cute little tarantula. Hopefully will grow up to be a male, and if it does, then I have a female, and that would be fun to have some of those babies. So, but let's move on to the next tarantula, and I can try to get my cats to stop playing with that toy. Alright, this is the enclosure for Cthulhu. Cthulhu is my Poecilotheria metallica. It's kind of hard to see, and this is not an enclosure that I'm willing to try to open to try to get a shot. Cthulhu is right up there in the corner. Cthulhu is heavy in pre-molt right now, so definitely even more dull colors going on. If Cthulhu had just molted, you might be able to, he's going to move around a bit, he or she. You might even have been able to see some of the colors through that webbed up enclosure because they're so bright. But unfortunately, we can't. So far has been really fun to keep. Definitely is one of my showcase tarantulas. So when people come over, Cthulhu is kind of one of the ones that I tend to show off. Pretty good eater, a little on the skittish side, but not too bad. Has never given me any kind of threat pose or given me any kind of attitude, and has just overall been pretty straightforward and easy to take care of. So I know a lot of people get into the hobby because of this tarantula, because they see a video of it on Facebook or something like that. Usually the saturation is cranked up to 11, so I think it does a little bit of a disservice to this tarantula when you have those kinds of videos, because you don't have to turn up the saturation with this species. They are gorgeous and vivid without having to do that. You don't have to make them look nuclear, you know. So anyways, yeah. P. Metallica, named Cthulhu. Hopefully will be molting soon. I mean, that really does kind of look like a little bit of a molting hammock that's been kind of made in there, so hopefully in the next week or so I will wake up to find Cthulhu flipped over or having molted through the night. But let's go ahead and move on. Alright, this mess of an enclosure is the enclosure for my Orthodontidae species Hottie Hottie. This one's name is Cheshire. Reason being is that this tarantula can disappear and reappear at will. Those of you that have seen my rehousing video of this one a while back know that it's quite fast and definitely will run if it is disturbed. So yeah, in that video this one ran up my arm and into my armpit and gave me probably one of the most harrowing rehouses of my tarantula keeping life. So this one has just made a lot of tunnels down below underneath the substrate and kind of brought all that substrate up and incorporated it into different webs. So this is all webbed up with all bunch of dirt curtains. I do see this one every once in a while, but not often. It is definitely skittish and a little bit reclusive. It is a beautiful tarantula. You guys can check my Instagram. I have a recent photo that I put up of Cheshire that is really one of my favorite photos I think I've ever taken. This is not one that I would recommend for those that are trying to venture into old worlds. This one would definitely be on the more experienced end of things, in my opinion, just because of their speed and their skittish nature. I can't say that this one has ever been super defensive, just super flighty, and you just don't want it running somewhere, especially on your body, where if you move wrong or something, you know, this one thinks it might be getting crushed and might bite out of defense. It's just a lot of things that you don't want to have happen can happen with this species. So in the future I will definitely be, trying to make sure that that doesn't happen again, because it wasn't a fun experience. But yeah, I keep this one a little bit, I keep it on dry substrate, but I do overflow the water dish for this one just because it is a little bit more of a moisture needy species. But I do that every 1 to 2 weeks. I'll overflow it, I'll wait for the substrate to dry out, and then I'll do it again. So if you do end up getting this species, I highly recommend giving them more substrate than you would typically for an arboreal species, because they really do like to burrow. They like to make a web, like a web tube with dirt curtains, so they would like probably a lot of substrate to do that. But yeah, I enjoy keeping the species, but it is definitely one of my species that comes with a warning label. Alright, you can kind of get a look there at, this is Osa, my Psalmopoeus reduncis or reduncus. I believe they are called the orange mouth, Costa Rican orange mouth, or something orange mouth is the common name. I really like keeping this species, kind of like all Psalmopoeus. because they are really, really gorgeous. They tend to show themselves for the most part. You know, they don't like to be disturbed. I haven't opened this enclosure and filled the water dish yet today because I was trying to get footage with Osa out. I assume that once I touch this enclosure to open it, Osa is probably going to go for a run. But I will be willing to try it here because, like I said, I do need to fill the water dish anyway. So let me get my water ready. Let's go ahead and see if I can't get a little bit better of a view of Osa, or if Osa is going to go for a run. As the kitties continue to try to make as much noise as possible when filming. Now I'm going to be very careful here not to open the enclosure too much right away. Now in typical fashion, for Samopoeus, if Osa does run, Osa's going to run right over the top of the cork bark and back into the hide. But there we go. Here you can kind of get a look at Osa. Just now starting to get some unique coloring. Kind of got some orange bands. Oh, there, see. Osa went kind of towards the other way. But I did get the water in there. So yeah, like I was saying, gets like some orange bands around the legs. Very pretty coloring. It's kind of like all the Samopoeus, kind of except for the Armenia, has kind of a tree bark like color for camouflage, I assume. But yeah, I keep this one dry substrate, water dish, with plenty of vertical room and a little bit of sub. Osa has kind of been doing more web tubes on the back of the cork bark instead of going down into the substrate. So, you know, not every tarantula of the same genus will do the same thing. But yeah, that is Osa, my Samopoeus redunsus. Alright, this dirty topped enclosure is for Cadela. Cadela is my Iridopelma species, Recife or Recife. I believe it is a female as well. She, as you can see, has webbed over her cork bark tube and is in pre-molt and has been for quite a while. So I'm really hoping she will finally molt. But yeah, this is an interesting species. It is a New World arboreal. But she is very defensive, much like an Old World arboreal. She definitely has some attitude, more so than a lot of my Old World arboreals. So they are very pretty. They kind of look, well, she kind of looks kind of like a peach-colored avic species, but she definitely has a lot more attitude. Once she comes out of this molt, we'll see what size she is. I might be moving her into one of my bigger enclosures. If not, I'm going to need to get her out to clean this one anyway. It is about time. There's a couple tarantulas I have that I think my goal for the first of the year is going to be taking them out and cleaning their enclosures. But some of them are ones that I'm not too excited to do that with. I'll show you a couple of those, more of those here soon. But yeah, dry substrate, a little bit of moss at the bottom just for decoration, water dish. Gave her a web tube, which she kind of spends, I would say, 99% of her time in. Yeah, kind of set them up like an avic, give them cross ventilation, and just kind of be prepared for a little bit more attitude than your normal New World arboreal. But let's move on. Here you can see some feet, and you'll notice that they're pink, so it gives you a good idea what this is. This is Orion. Originally, when I had gotten Orion, I had purchased Orion as an Avicularia metallica. However, since Orion has reached maturity, she has not really exhibited the signs, the visual signs that you would expect from a metallica species. The setae on her abdomen, instead of being white-tipped, which was kind of a clear sign of a metallica, actually has red tips, which is very similar to, or indicative of a Avicularia avicularia. So, one of two things has happened. Either I was sold an AVIC that was listed as an AVIC Metallica, or this is a species that was crossbred between the two. Again, sorry for the cat noise. Which really isn't that big of a deal, considering that it's just a morphotype and not a different species. So they are the same species, just different morphotypes, so they just have different colors. So in the future, if that other AVIC that I has is a mature male, I might still pair the two. I haven't decided because they are just different morphotypes. But we'll see. Because I honestly believe that she's probably just an AVIC, but I don't know. There's really not much way to tell. But since she's not out, won't stay too much longer on this. Same setup as the last AVIC. Alright, this is the enclosure for Kakarot. Kakarot is a Pseudoclomorus gigas, formerly known as Tapenonakis gigas. This is one of my favorite species that I keep. Not only because of the really awesome bright orange color, but just because this species is usually out and about. A really good species for a show-off species, you know, something to kind of wow some people. But is also a very, very voracious eater, as you guys have seen in previous feeding videos. Kakarot usually goes after prey quite a lot. So the setup wise, it's just an arboreal setup with dry sub, water dish, lots of verticality, but also a little bit more sub than some other species, because quite like the Salmopoa species, Kakarot has dug a burrow up under the cork bark, and then a web tube straight up the cork bark, and then has another secondary entrance here on the side that she is sitting outside of. Yeah, I mean, if you don't have one of these, I recommend getting them. They can be a little bit flighty, but other than that, I have not had much of any issue with Kakarot. Alright, this is my Salmopoe's cambridgei female named Deku. Deku molted 6 days ago, so is still kind of hardening up, so we're not going to mess with her too much, but she is getting quite large. I would say that she's probably completely mature at this point. She's quite gorgeous, extremely voracious eater. You know, has a little bit of attitude every once in a while. If I fill the water dish or something like that, she might throw up a threat pose. But other than that, she is a great display species. I wish she would be up on her cork bark a little bit more. She definitely does like to be down at ground level, as you see where she's made her web and everything like that. Yeah, I can't recommend Salmopoe's genus enough. They are definitely up there with my favorites of keeping, just because I think they have a wide variety of the way they look. They're very easy to care for. They grow fairly fast, and they can be pretty impressive in terms of the way they look and the size that they get to. Hopefully I will be able to find her a boyfriend here in the future, because like I said, I think she is now at a size to where she'd be mature enough to breed if I wanted to do so. I wish she'd show off her colors, but look forward to that probably in the next feeding video when she's ready to eat. Then I'll probably be able to get a better image for you guys. But yeah, that was Deku. Let's move on. Alright, this is the enclosure for my Monosyntropus balfouri communal setup. I do have 3 of them in here. Excuse me. However, I would say for about the past 3 months, I have not really seen them. However, I have dropped some prey items in there into the webbing that has disappeared. So I believe they're all still eating. They just kind of are reclusive to begin with, but have been extra reclusive as of late. And that could be just a seasonal thing. I'm not sure if maybe this species has that. I definitely have recorded that just to kind of keep an eye next year to see if the same thing happens. But they're getting quite large when I have seen them, and I only assume that they've gotten even bigger because I do see 1, 2 molts kind of poking out from inside the network of different burrows and tubes. So I mean, really only time will tell if they are all still in there and still alive. It's kind of one of the not so fun things about having one of these communals is that sometimes when they're all hidden like this, you don't know what's going on, but you have to kind of resist that urge to find out. And in the past it's worked out pretty well. Just, you know, stayed patient, and you know, some time went by and they just appeared, and I got like a late night rare glimpse of all of them out at once. So yeah, it'll happen. You just have to be patient. And like I said, they could have all just went into pre-molt around the same time and just all been hanging out, or you know, I could have only one alive in there. I hope that's not the case. And I doubt it, because they have been super easy to take care of, and I always give them plenty of food to make sure that that doesn't happen. But yeah, that's the enclosure for the Balfours. Let's move on. Alright, here we have Coral. Coral is my Lasiodora parahybana. I believe female. As you can see, she's growing quickly and definitely putting on some size, but she still has a lot of growing to do. She is pretty fun to take care of. She really likes to eat. She's always out and about, and she's only going to get more impressive as she gets older and bigger. She, you know, is a little on the skittish side, but like I said, it's always important to make sure that you do keep a burrow available for them so that they have somewhere to retreat to if they feel threatened, and that will make your tarantulas a little bit less defensive, because they just, you know, feel a little bit safer having a place to run back to. I keep her on dry sub with a water dish. I overflow the water dish every once in a while. But other than that, she's a pretty straightforward tarantula to keep, and really fun. I really like her, and I can't wait to see just how big she gets, because she's pretty impressive size already for her age. She's not super old. But yeah, that was Coral, and we will move on. Alright, here playing a little bit hard to see is my Pamphobeteus species Machala. This is my female named Luvia. She's getting pretty impressively big. She still has the voracious appetite she's always had. She is a little bit on the skittish side. Anytime that I tend to open the enclosure or mess with things in there, she tends to run back there into her little burrow that you can see. I highly recommend getting any Pamphobeteus species. They are very, very fun to keep because they got some vibrant colors going on. You can't really see it on Luvia, as she is kind of getting close to molt, and she's female, so she tends to only have markings on her carapace. The males, as they mature, once they do mature, become bright, almost fluorescent with their colors. They get very large, and they are voracious eaters and kind of a good display tarantula. And she has lots of growing left to do. She's probably only half of her adult size, maybe even less. But yeah, if you can get one of these, get them. You can find them as slings, and they're not so crazy in terms of price, but as they get bigger, they definitely, the price on these ones can go up pretty dramatically. But if you can get a deal on a sling, I highly recommend it. I have definitely no regrets about keeping Luvia. It's been very fun. Let's move on. Alright, this is the enclosure for my Orphanocynus species Blue, named Gengar. Gengar is named Gengar because this one is like a ghost. You will never see, I probably have seen this tarantula less than 10 times since I've owned it. It does have a burrow that is back behind this cork bark kind of structure. And this is definitely one of those examples of it doesn't matter how you think a tarantula is going to use their enclosure when you set it up, they will always do something different. So I thought that Gengar would go in here and kind of burrow down below underneath it, but instead went back behind it and made a burrow in between it and the backing display board. But I did see that when Gengar molted the last time that she molted in there and made a web mat in there and molted, and then once she hardened back up, she came right back out and went back to where her burrow is in the back. She eats. The food disappears. I put it at the entrance of the burrow, so I know she's eating. And the couple of times I have seen her out, usually it's to get a drink of water. I do have actually, I think, a photo or two on my Instagram if you want to see what she looks like, because like I said, it is very rare, and I don't think I've ever gotten her on video. But yeah, that was my setup for Gengar. Let's move on. Alright, this is the bud of my Grammostola pulchripes. Her name is Inca. She is a mature female. Still not completely full grown, but getting close. I am looking for to pair her. I have one party that's interested that lives in the city. We just got to make the time to meet up. Probably waiting for the weather to warm up a little bit, and plus I think she's getting close to molting. So we're probably going to wait for her next molt and then kind of try to time it around there. But yeah, great species. Highly recommended as a beginner species. She is really chill. She's a good eater. She is almost always out. She kind of moved back there like she was going to go back into her burrow because of me having to pull out this enclosure from the cabinet. But normally, when I don't have to do that, she's usually out and about. Yeah, so if you don't have one of these, what are you doing? These are a staple of the hobby. And they are just an overall good species. They get to a decent size, and they are usually pretty chill. But yeah, that is Inca, my Grammostola pulchripes. Let's move on. Alright, this is the last one. This is my enclosure for my large adult female Poecilotheria regalis named Tika. She is back behind the statue, and as you can see, this is definitely another one of the enclosures that I need to completely take her out and clean out, but that's not something I really am looking forward to, so I'm kind of procrastinating, but I do plan on doing it here after the beginning of the year. She's awesome to keep. She comes out every once in a while, goes onto the cork bark. You can kind of see her sometimes, but not all the time. Makes it a little bit hard to feed her, but usually I just try to drop a feeder back there into the web. She'll eventually get it. Yeah, I'm going to be looking to find her a boyfriend, because she is definitely of an appropriate size, and she just molted, so hopefully she should come out of her web tunnel back there where I can see her in all of her molted glory. And then I can start working on getting her fattened up and ready to breed. So if you have a mature male of these, hit me up, let me know. Or if you have a penultimate male, definitely hit me up and we can try to plan on something and work something out. Yeah. So sorry you didn't get to see her, but there's plenty of pictures of her on my Instagram and most of my other tarantulas. So yeah, this concludes part 2. And that's my entire collection, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope all of you have a happy new year, and wish you a prosperous and healthy new year. Hopefully you get everything you want, and hopefully that includes more tarantulas. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.